Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Pranita from International Center for Research on Women, and I must thank SOCHAM and UNICEF for organizing this healthcare practices during COVID with support from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India on the Menstrual Health Hygiene Day. Today we have eminent speakers from different sectors, government, industry, UN, and civil society organizations. We will follow the order of speakers mentioned in the agenda. Each speaker will have 7 to 8 minutes, and towards the end, we'll have 15 to 20 minutes for audience to ask questions and have some conversations. I request all of you to write your thoughts and questions in the chat box, and we'll pick up as many as possible for discussions. Uh, no, sorry, is my voice clear?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So if we talk about MHM, it's a multi-sectoral issue with linkages with education, WASH, psychosocial health, and sexual and reproductive health. And gender plays an overarching role influencing all sectoral issues. Recognizing MHM holistically and having gender lens in our specific efforts are necessary to achieve desired goal. When I think about goal, I find goal mentioned in the green paper on monitoring and measuring menstruation quite comprehensive and goal centric. I'm just reading from there. The overarching aspirational goal is girls living in societies that enable them to be confident and knowledgeable about their menstruation and able to manage it with dignity, safety, and comfort, thereby promoting their health, well-being, and ability to realize their potential and equitable role in society. In our collective vision, we should reflect on the aspirational goal, assess where we are, how has the current COVID crisis has affected various aspects of care and services, and how can we convert this as an opportunity to understand and address this issue comprehensively. We'll hear more from our panelists, but before inviting speakers, I invite Mr. Sandeep Jain for his welcome address. Mr. Jain, over to you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Good morning, eminent speakers, SHM members, and distinguished guests who have joined us to attend this timely and meaningful discussion. Yeah, on behalf of SHM, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you at this important webinar on occasion of Menstrual Hygiene Day. So at the outset, I'm immensely pleased to share that ASSOCHAM as an India leading industry chamber, to come forward and take up a cause of menstrual hygiene since last 2 years on especially occasion of Menstrual Hygiene Day. As we know that during the COVID-19 pandemic, many girls and young women are facing the problem regarding access to menstrual health and hygiene products with facility of clean water to manage their periods. Medical facilities like OPD are also limited during the pandemic, as we know. So as a responsible industry chamber, we ensure that ASSOCHAM, along with our members, partners, and different stakeholders, are standing firmly with the government and will leave no stone unturned to overcome these issues. With this, I would like to conclude my address because the time is very short, and would like to request all of our esteemed participants to continue providing their valuable inputs and suggestions to share with government and other stakeholders, so that we can just like take the issues whatever we are facing at this time. Again, now I would like to request Ms. Pranita, our session monitor, to kindly carry forward this discussion. Thank you again. Ms. Pranita, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep ji. Now I'll invite Dr. Pratibha Singh from UNICEF to share her thoughts and reflections and the efforts that UNICEF has been doing at this time.
Hello. Very good morning to all participants and the panelists. It's indeed a great privilege and to be part of this essential webinar today. So, just wanting to ask the panelists, like, is my presentation going to be displayed or I have to display it myself?
Your presentation is already displayed.
Dr. Pratibha, your presentation is on the screen.
Okay, yeah, fine. So just I'll briefly speak to everyone about the menstrual hygiene management programs of UNICEF and also whatever can be done in the context of COVID-19. Given the fact that a lot of organizations globally have like been cognizant of the fact, and also Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in India is doing a lot on this front because it's a COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, is a health pandemic. And today, on the occasion of Menstrual Hygiene Management Day, we'll have the opportunity to focus on these issues. Also, given the fact that hello.
Dr. Pratibha, your voice is clear.
Okay, I'm not able to change the slide for some reason.
Do we have any IT support?
I'm not able to change the slide.
Yeah, no, I gather that. So I'm just asking if
Yeah,
we have
now
a
it's
IT
clear.
support.
It takes a little time, I think, slide changing with the webinar platform. So sorry about that.
Oh,
So
maybe.
briefly, I will talk about some of the programs that UNICEF has been supporting across the country. And our programs have been going on with a lot of collaboration with the respective state governments and also with the support of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And then I'll talk briefly about some of the key considerations for menstrual hygiene program in the context of COVID-19, followed by a brief summary of the efforts we are making to support MHM during the COVID-19 issues. Also, I would speak about a few key actions that we need to take on menstrual hygiene management in this context of the pandemic. Yeah, so as a lead partner, for menstrual hygiene management, as a development partner, we have been working on this sector for the last 25 years. And some of the key areas of our work include awareness generation across state offices. We have been helping in training key stakeholders from health, from education department, students, teachers, community volunteers, and women. And we have also been using a lot of open discussions. We have been making efforts to involve men and boys in the whole program. And our support continues to be on program planning and management also, when the state governments develop the annual implementation plan for education, for the drinking water sanitation department, and for health, we try to get menstrual hygiene management programs incorporated over there. And the key aspect of our programming has been awareness generation is a big aspect, because the whole programming hinges upon behavior change communication to a great extent about menstrual hygiene, about the right access to products for managing of menstrual hygiene. Yeah, so some of our key support has also been around interdepartmental coordination. We have been like in 2015, we supported in development of national menstrual hygiene management framework with the Ministry of Drinking Water Sanitation and Ministry of Human Resource Development, and also Ministry of Health and Family Welfare also helped in that. And then based on this national framework, we have been supporting in preparation of state level action plans for MHM. This has been completed in Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar, West Bengal, and other states, followed by like this support at the state level. We all develop the annual training calendar for state government officials, and also how the resources get pulled in for the MHM program at the state level. So in Maharashtra, our support has been going on from 2015 onwards. The state guidelines were like prepared in 2017, and district level advocacy for inclusion of Zilla Panchayat level initiatives has been made in 16 districts. And right now, like something special is there about the Maharashtra approach for the menstrual hygiene management program. The leadership comes from the CEO of the Zilla Panchayat or the district magistrate, and there's a convergence between different departments like education, health, Swachh Bharat mission, and women and child development department. And there is a convergence in terms of operational plan and budgeting, and also in terms of capacity building, and also pooling in resources. So this program, like, it has a successful model, and we keep sharing it for upscaling. Our programs in Gujarat have also moved along the same way. So I'm just trying to give a brief visual reference about the efforts over there. How the pad banks, you can see one picture of a pad bank which is operational in a school, and also there are peer supporting volunteer groups at the school level, having nodal teachers and also girl students who take care, who are the custodians of the awareness generation on menstrual hygiene management, and also the safe products, also sanitary pads or other products to manage menstrual flow. Then vending machines have also been involved with the CSR support in Gujarat in various districts. And something very remarkable has been how the program has been continuing through the counseling. So from Rajasthan, our program support to the state government has led to a campaign in 2017, which is still continuing on menstrual hygiene management. It is all about breaking the silence, all about addressing the taboos related to menstrual hygiene management. And the program is very nicely named Chuppi Todo Khulkar Baat Karo, which is about speaking frankly about the issues related to MHM, because it's a basic right of everyone. And this program actually started in one of the districts, and from there on it was very well taken off. In Jharkhand, which is a tribal dominated district state, and also it has some civil strife problem as well. So there also like very good program efforts on MHM have been made. And we really appreciate the efforts of Department of Women and Child Development, Department of Health and Family Welfare in Jharkhand, who have been really instrumental in these efforts. So Jharkhand prepared the roadmap for menstrual hygiene management in 2018, and funds were allocated under the Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. So apart from the nodal departments like Women and Child Development and Health and Family Welfare in Jharkhand, the Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin also used their funds for the IEC fund, Information, Education and Communication funds for menstrual hygiene management awareness in school. And efforts are ongoing to get sanitary pad vending machines and incinerators installed. So they have been installed in all the Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas, the KGBVs. KGBVs are actually residential bridge schools for dropout girl students, so that they can continue their education. And in Jharkhand, MHM communication toolkit and life skill module has been upscaled to all 8 districts. So something worth mentioning is that all the programs have been continuing with the in synchronization with the ongoing government programs, which can be from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Department of Women and Child Development. So that's the case across all the states wherever UNICEF interventions are there. So I would like to just take you through a slide about minimum requirements for MHM friendly wash facilities, so that these facilities ensure that girls don't miss out on their classes while they are having periods. And there are also some examples how girls are actually forced to drop out of mainstream education system when they start having periods, when they achieve puberty. So some of the requirements of MHM friendly wash facility is that first and the foremost point is about having a gender segregated toilet at the school, and there should be sufficient number of toilets. There shouldn't be the case that number of girls in school is very high, number of toilets is very less. So as per the acceptable standards in India, we have the standard for one toilet for 40 girls. And they should be within the toilet, there should be a space for cleaning and washing. Like if it is a residential school, it is not very relevant for a day school. Then cloth hanging hooks and a shelf for keeping items should be there inside the female toilet in the school. And also hand washing facilities near the toilet should be there, the soap and running water. And dustbins should be present for disposal, or if possible incinerators with the mechanism should be there. And also mirrors should be present in the toilet facility. So these facilities, like these non-negotiable things on MHM, we always keep in mind during program implementation on MHM in school. So some of the key things like setting the context for MHM in the context of COVID-19 are that first of all, this COVID-19 pandemic has, there is no such research study which shows that it is getting spread through feces and blood, although research is ongoing. And menstrual blood has not been shown to be a source of contamination, because given the life cycle of the virus, how it survives and surfaces and outside the human body. So there is no such impact, but definitely the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on menstrual cycle has been in various other forms, in terms of stress and anxiety, in terms of malnourishment due to COVID-19 linked pandemic, and also impact on the reproductive health. So during the pandemic, it is estimated that almost 26 million women and girls who have been displaced are also menstruating. So for them, the program of dealing with menstruation every month gets highly intensified, and there has to be a programmatic way how to deal with those issues. So in the barriers get intensified during the this particular kind of COVID-19 pandemic, that this is unprecedented what we are facing right now. And by barriers related to cultural beliefs and taboos related to menstruation are get further intensified, and also the movement restrictions on getting access to the market, attending school, and waiting in line for distributions if they are happening. So that create all the more problems for dealing with menstruation at a monthly time. And also there are some news reports which are coming up across the country that due to the COVID-19 linked lockdown, many schools which were providing sanitary pads to girls, adolescent girls in school, like they are not able to function because schools are also closed down during the lockdown. Also, girls are not able to access the ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers that frequently, because in some states that mechanism was also moving on very well. So just to show another slide on challenges faced by girls during menstruation, you can all see all the access challenges are there. Then there is lack of knowledge. Then there is cultural barriers getting intensified. Yeah, some of the essential considerations that we need to keep in mind during COVID-19 pandemic is that the supply of hygienic material to deal with periods should be there, and this is very critical for healthcare facility staff, doctors, nurses, the frontline ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers. In whichever state, Anganwadi workers are also contributing to in prevention and support during COVID-19 pandemic related awareness generation and all those things. So because these are the people who are the frontline warriors dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. And in India, we have almost more than 50% of the health workers are also female. Dr. Zoya will maybe elaborate further on that. So their needs on menstrual hygiene management are very critical, because during the pandemic, a lot of these health, the people, they have to wear the PPE kit for long duration, and dealing with menstruation, wearing that kit is very difficult, because once they want to change the sanitary pad, if the health facility staff are menstruating, and if they have to change the sanitary pad, they will need to change the PPE kit as well. And the PPE kit is like it has to be disposed after a single use. So all those criteria have to be considered right now. And also we have to deal with the issue which is staring everyone in face, that there are so many displaced girls and women who have lost their livelihood, and who have movement restriction, and they might be staying in temporary shelter camps or in institutions. And at the same time, we have to keep in mind the principle of do no harm. which is like physical distancing measures have to be in place, minimum contact between person, and personal protective methods have to be followed at this time. So some of the efforts which are being done during the time of COVID-19 by with UNICEF and with support of our partners in Maharashtra, like we have been supporting distribution of sanitary pads to urban slum. As we all know, Mumbai is becoming a very hotbed of COVID-19 pandemic, and so that's very critical. And we are reaching out to most deprived adolescent girls, sex workers, and also reaching out to people in urban slums with messaging on support during the
Dr.
menstruation
Pratibha?
period.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, Dr. Pratibha. Yeah, if you can just wrap up fast.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I have just few more slides. So in Jharkhand, something very remarkable has happened. Like last week, state government passed a directive that all districts have to ensure supply of sanitary pads for the next 3 months for school-age adolescent girls, and funding for this will come entirely from the government side. So on the MH day and how to like build the momentum about this issue, lots of states wherever UNICEF is supporting, they are organizing a series of orientation, capacity building over the webinar series, and Andhra, Karnataka, Telangana, like they are jointly organizing. Then you can see some of the visuals are also here from the webinar. So Odisha, Assam, Gujarat, Maharashtra, they are all organizing the social media campaigns. Today there is another thing which is happening, like we started with a challenge which is known as Red Dot Challenge. Red Dot Challenge is all about putting a red dot on the palms and displaying it, and people have to take their own pictures with it. And the purpose of this is to break the culture of silence, which is always surrounding menstruation, even in all different levels of society. And the purpose is to have that kind of feeling of solidarity for the people who menstruate, and also to talk about all the issues. So this is like happening, and we will soon get to know the statistics, how many people it is reaching out to. So just I will come to the end of my presentation. There are some of the key actions needed for MHM program now, given the COVID-19 pandemic, and what will happen after the lockdown, because once the lockdown has ended, the risk of transmission of virus does not end with that. So somewhere we need to continue making the efforts, and something which is a lesson learned from the emergency response during COVID-19 pandemic and other things is that for menstrual hygiene management, adequate funds and functionaries should be thought of from the very beginning of the emergency response. It should not be kind of a knee-jerk reaction that we are faced with a problem and then we start thinking of solutions at that time. So from the very beginning, that has to be scoped in, and collaboration between multiple stakeholders. For example, disaster management force, where we have different various government departments which are dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. There should be a collaboration between them so that duplication of effort does not happen, and also gaps can be addressed in a very timely manner. So for that purpose, collaboration is very, very critical, and all stakeholders in the emergency response sector have to understand the local menstrual beliefs and practices, because we are observing a trend that for female health and hygiene, when the hygiene kit gets distributed, generally just sanitary pads are there in that kit, but at the same time nobody makes sure whether the end line beneficiaries, the targeted population who will receive those hygiene kits, are they having that behavior of using sanitary pads, or are they more comfortable in using a disposable using a rewashable, reusable cloth for when dealing with the menstrual flow. So training of frontline workers is another important aspect, and somewhere we have to have some kind of a system to have evaluation of what has worked on menstrual hygiene management during emergency situations, so that future responses can be identified at the same time, and quality improvements have to be thought of along the line whenever we are planning for menstrual hygiene management during at the time when we are considering emergency response. So thanking you all for your patient hearing, and I come to the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pratibha. And I now invite Ms. Abhilasa Sood from UN Women. I really request all the speakers to really maintain time, else we'll not have any time to have conversation with audience. So please, Abhilasa, if it's possible, please keep your presentation to a maximum of 8 minutes. Thank you. Over to you, Abhilasha.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, ASSOCHAM Foundation, UNICEF for organizing this today, which is the Menstrual Hygiene Day. Is my screen visible? Yes. If someone could
Yes,
just
ma'am,
confirm.
visible.
Right, great,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you. So I just want to start off by saying that women and men and people of different sexual and gender identities have different gender needs. And when we talk about substantive equality, it is essential that we recognize these differential gender needs, and we also address them. We address the fact that women are in an unequal position, and therefore deal with these differently to reach equality. With regards to menstrual health and hygiene, if we look at it, that a woman on an average menstruates for approximately 2100 days, that is almost 6 to 7 years of her lifetime. And therefore, it is absolutely essential that women and girls are able to manage their menstruation with safety, hygiene, dignity, and privacy. This in itself is a basic human right, but it also contributes in enjoying other rights, that is, right to health, education, work, mobility, and a life free of any sort of discrimination and stigma. So I just want to take one moment to focus on what are the barriers and what are the issues that that we are talking about that surround menstruation, and why is there a need to still celebrate World Menstrual Hygiene Day. So till date, there are people, the menstruation is thought of as something which is very dirty, impure. There are myths and misconceptions that surround menstruation. There are harmful social cultural norms which make it difficult for women and girls to have a happy, a safe, hygienic menstruation. Um, there is a culture of silence that Dr. Pratibha also spoke about. There is limited conversation that happens around menstruation, and fathers don't talk to their daughters, husbands don't talk to their wives, and often even mothers don't talk to their daughters about menstruation. And even among women, this is something that I think we all have faced, and we've seen that even among girls, people use code words to talk about menstruation. So there is no open conversation happening around it. There's a lot of taboo. There's still a lot of stigma, and we often think that this is there only in rural areas or in areas which are hard to reach. But this happens in the heart of cities, in your and my homes, and even today. Because of menstruation, there are a lot of restrictions on mobility of women, their access to public life, religious freedoms, social cultural activities, and yeah. So therefore, I mean, even research suggests that the first experiences of girls are full of fear and anxiety, and there is a lack of preparedness in girls because of the culture of silence that surrounds menstruation. More than 40% of women in the age group of 15 to 24 still don't use hygienic methods of protection, which means that there are thousands of girls and women out there who are vulnerable to sexual and reproductive health problems. And yeah, so, and as Dr. Pratibha also spoke about, that there is a lack of safe and hygienic, quality, affordable products, because of which a lot of girls drop out of school. Even in the world of work and in public life, women face barriers to access and enjoy these rights, and be able to fully participate in economically and have optimum productivity. The other challenge is also about lack of access to adequate wash facilities, disposal mechanisms, and also management of menstrual waste. So these are some of the barriers. What essentially is required, and what I would like to emphasize, is that women and girls and their needs need to be prioritized at every level, whether it be in homes, in communities, in public spaces, societies, and states. And they need to be a part of decision-making processes at every level. This is essential that women are center staged, and we don't need to decide for them. there is a need to create forums where women can come together, discuss, and take lead on the issues that concern their own gender needs. I would just like to focus on one of the examples that Dr. Pratibha also spoke about, that in Rajasthan, UN Women, UNICEF, and UNFPA have supported the government of Rajasthan to collaboratively start the menstrual hygiene scheme and campaign, which is called Chuppi Todo Khulkar Baat Karo. The essence of the program is to be able to break the silence, to start talking about menstruation, and also enable girls and women to manage their menstruation with dignity, safety, privacy, adequate knowledge, influencing social norms and creating a conducive environment, and also increasing access to safe and hygienic products and disposal mechanisms. There are 4 essential strategies that were adopted in this program, and the first is on awareness generation. So a lot of mass media campaigns are using folk media and digital media, videos, and activities and tools to basically initiate conversation and dialogue on menstrual hygiene management. Also access to safe and hygienic products, teaching and training girls and women to make home-based menstrual products, increase their access to safe disposal methods, training and capacity building. So a cadre of resource persons has been trained at the state and as well as at the district level, who have the knowledge of MHM and can transact that knowledge at the ground level, at the Gram Panchayat level. Also, the USPs of the program was intersectoral convergence. So if you look at the convergent service delivery framework, so menstrual hygiene is not the subject of any one particular department, as we all are aware. So it is worked on by WCD as well as by the health department under Swachh Bharat Mission, Panchayati Raj and Rural Development, as well as education. So the essence of this program was basically to get everyone on the same platform, pool in their resources, pool in their expertise, and basically deliver menstrual hygiene in a convergent manner, menstrual hygiene services. So and I think this is already existing pre-COVID. What we need to do is also adapt these strategies now to COVID times. And another thing that this program had was basically this Chuppi Todo Divas, which is celebrated at the Gram Panchayat level every quarter. So this Divas is facilitated by Sathins, Anganwadi workers with the support of Ashas. And it brings together women and girls at the Gram Panchayat level as well as men and boys to discuss and talk about menstruation and the myths and misconceptions that surround them. What are the menstrual hygiene practices that need to be maintained? How can schools become more safer and provide the services for girls and women? And there are very interesting conversations, and I can share one which had come to us, that there was a group of boys who were discussing menstrual hygiene, and a lot of boys thought that महावारी एक बीमारी है. तो इन चीज़ों पर बात करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि शुरुआत वहीं से हो रही है कि जब तक हम बात नहीं करेंगे, जब तक करेक्ट इन्फॉर्मेशन ट्रांजैक्ट नहीं होगी, तो हम चुप्पी नहीं तोड़ पाएंगे. And there are a lot of videos with the help of which these discussions happen, and there is an activity book, there's a book of games which they can play and talk about menstruation. In the context of COVID, so as I was saying, that these strategies need to be adapted to COVID times, and you need to also mainstream MHM in the COVID response and recovery plans. So menstrual products need to be included as essential commodities, the sexual and reproductive health services as essential services. And also, as Dr. Pratibha also said, that we need to focus on the services required by female health workers, frontline workers, police personnel, all those people who are working on the front lines, all those women, and how are their menstrual needs being met. This needs to be focused on while in our response plans. Also, another thing that we need to do is to document women's experiences in these unprecedented times, and by women themselves. What are the challenges that they are facing, and different groups of women, whether they be women who are migrating, or women who are at home, women in different parts who don't have access, or who have access. What are the experiences that women are facing? And these need to be documented, studied in detail, so that we can learn from these experiences. Um, yeah, this International Menstrual Hygiene Day, as the theme is that it is time for action, and then a lot of action has been happening, and we need to continue doing this. I'll stop here. Thank you.
At the forefront of COVID response, and the need for documenting challenges and experiences of women. Now I invite Ms. Chetna Soni from PNG to share her thoughts. Ms. Chetna?
Good morning, everyone. Just give me 1 minute. I'll just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I want to start by wishing everybody a very happy Menstrual Hygiene Day on behalf of Whisper and PNG. And I would like to thank ASSOCHAM for organizing this great webinar on this occasion. I would thank them for giving us the opportunity to talk about this topic, which we at Whisper are very, very passionate about. I think a lot has been said before me on the state of menstrual hygiene in the country, right? We are obviously quite behind a lot of other developing countries in the market, and there are many barriers that actually lead to this across the lack of awareness related to menstrual hygiene. There is a definite lack of acceptance of periods overall because of the cultural conditioning that exists in our country. And it is a topic which, despite it being 2020 now, is still considered a huge taboo. And that leads to a host of other issues in terms of people not willing to talk about freely and really trying to hide it, which also has its impact on the methods that they use for hygienic protection. And there is a lot of shaming that exists even today with respect to periods. There is bullying of young girls in school when they start hitting puberty. And all of these are the context in which we, have to work to drive menstrual hygiene adoption in the country. I will not spend a lot of time on the barriers because I think a lot has been said and said very well by the speakers before me. So I will focus a lot more on what I think we as industry need to be doing, and what we at Whisper have been trying to do over the years. So I think there are many aspects to driving 100% menstrual hygiene adoption, and it needs to tackle all the barriers of awareness, education. It needs to tackle the barrier of acceptance and not being silent about periods. And definitely there is a barrier on access which needs to be tackled. At Whisper, we have really taken this responsibility, given we are the market leader, with a lot of passion, right? And since the time we've launched in the country, we focused on breaking the silence that surrounds periods. And there's a lot of effort and trust that we have placed on education. We really believe that puberty, which is the starting point of all of this, is where it all begins. This is the time when both girls and their mothers don't have the right set of information, and the taboos and the unhygienic methods of protection actually get passed on from generation to generation. So as we've done thousands of consumer interactions and talked to their mothers over the years, we've realized that is the point at which we need to make the change. And since 1995, we've had this school puberty education program, where we invite daughters, of course, but also their mothers, because they are the key change maker. And we've been able to impact about 2.5 crore girls since the time we started. And last year, actually, on this very day, as part of an ASSOCHAM event, we had made a commitment to double that effort by 2022 and impact more than 5 crore girls. And we are well underway on that effort. During these programs, we talk to them about why periods happen. We put a lot of effort on normalizing the conversation around periods and really accepting that as a very, very, biological part of a girl's and a woman's life. We also talk to them about what are the right hygienic methods for them to use during periods, how to take care of their hygiene more importantly, and their nutrition during those days, which are all very important aspects of driving menstrual hygiene adoption. And we've realized during these times that there are girls who, know nothing about periods, and a lot of times they actually fear that they have some kind of a deadly disease, not very different from what boys, as my colleague was mentioning before, believe about why periods happen. And it's also very well entrenched in the way periods are considered dirty and period blood is considered a curse on women, even today after all these years. So that's a big effort that we have tried to make, and we will continue on that front. And more recently, given the emphasis of education and why that is important, right? And we really think education can break the cycle of mothers passing on to daughters lack of the taboos that exist, and also not the right methods of hygienic protection. We recently did an initiative called Keep Girls in School. The insight behind that initiative is more than 2.3 crore girls every year, which is 1 in 5 girls who hit puberty every year, actually drop out of school. It starts by them starting to miss school during periods because they are embarrassed about staying at school. There is not access to toilets, as people before me have mentioned, and eventually it translates into them dropping out of school altogether. So we recently launched this initiative called Keep Girls in School, which is really focused on driving education about menstrual hygiene, and Whisper taking that effort, which we believe will enable girls to continue in school. We really believe education is a very, very big enabler for girls to have a wonderful life, a life full of opportunity. And we at Whisper strongly believe that periods should really not come in the way of a girl having a life of opportunity. So I'm just going to take a minute and play the video that we had on this initiative. Just give me a second.
Maybe in the chat box for everyone to see at their own time. Is this video playing? It's not playing on my screen, so I don't know if it's playing.
No, it is playing without the audio for me. I think that's
Okay,
the end of it.
Yeah, so maybe then I will jump on to the next one if you were not able to hear the audio. But the basic fact of the video was to really highlight this telling truth that nearly 1 in 5 girls actually drop out of school every year because of puberty, and how Whisper has been focusing and is inviting actually our, everybody in society to be part of that effort. And educate girls about puberty and provide them access to sanitary protection at this critical life stage in their life. And we have been able to impact this year itself more than 50 lakh girls, and obviously we'll continue with the effort as we move forward. As we move on and we touch upon the topic of education, right, I think COVID actually poses pretty unique challenges in the context of menstrual hygiene situation in the country. There is that obvious impact of schools being shut, and a lot of girls who were getting access to sanitary protection because of the great work that state governments have been doing via their schools has come to a stall. There is also the big challenge of actually school disappearing from their lives completely. Given the kind of challenges we already had related to schools during periods, this COVID situation will actually only amplify that, right? And according to a UNESCO report, about 154 crore students have actually been hit across the world by COVID, and obviously girls in this context will be hit even more. So we at Whisper, and as an industry, as a group of stakeholders, we need to make sure that all the wonderful progress that has been happening over the last decade, thanks to the work of a lot of people who are on this call and the organizations that they represent, industry as a large, we need to make sure that COVID doesn't set us back, right? And we need to make sure that we identify new solutions. We figure out what is the way to navigate the unique challenges that COVID actually poses. And, we continue the great work that is happening instead of actually going back. There is the need for education, which continues. We want to make sure that there is a way for us to continue providing education related to puberty and hygienic ways to manage yourself during menstruation. There is also the problem of access. These are the two problems that we need to make sure that we continue to address as we navigate the pandemic that we are in. So I'll talk a little bit about what we have been doing as a brand during this time. So there is a part on access, and then I'll talk about a part on education. On access, we've really partnered with a lot of the state governments to make sure that the girls and women who need sanitary protection even more during this time continue to get access to that. And there's been great work done by the frontline workers, thanks to support from the state governments in providing access to sanitary napkins that we have been donating to the end beneficiaries, right? So this goes to girls and women in migrant camps. This also goes to frontline workers. So, medical workers, police staff, as our way to thank them for everything that they are doing for us during this time. This also goes to communities in need who are remotely located and don't have access to sanitary products near their community, right? So we've been able to donate around 17 lakh pads nationally, and we are still continuing that effort for as long as we have to. So we've really taken the spirit of the Menstrual Hygiene Day, which is it's time for action, making sure that as a brand, we not only talk about the fact that hygienic protection is important, but we are also doing our bit in terms of making sure our girls continue to have access to that. The other thing that we have done, keeping in mind that a lot of the stores are shut, right? They are not being able to, consumers and girls are not being able to get access to products around them. We've also partnered with the likes of Swiggy, Zomato, Dunzo, in many cities to make sure that girls have the access to sanitary protection at their doorstep. And obviously the reach is building as we speak, but it's an effort which has been very strongly appreciated by a lot of girls as something that the brand is trying to do. And I obviously speak on behalf of Whisper, but it's very encouraging to see that across brands in the category, a lot of brands have come forward and done similar initiatives, and that is very much the need of the hour. The second thing that I will talk about is on education, and how do we make sure that this doesn't become one of those, seismic events which really sets us back on the cause of education and child education in particular. And how do we continue menstrual education even during this time? So I was planning on showing you a video, but given videos are not playing, I will talk a little bit more about the initiative that we have, right? It's called Mobile Shala, which is basically mobile school, and it's a phone-based learning system. Yes.
Chetna, I'm sorry, but it's like really we are passing the time, and we still have few speakers. Can you just finish in 1 minute? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. So it's a phone-based learning system in which girls can access the learning sitting at home, right? So this is what it looks like. And what we've done as part of that is we are providing not just school education on specific subjects, but also menstrual education as a way to carry forward. And it is available across 6th to 10th grades, and it's available in different languages as well. This is a sneak preview that I am sharing with you. This is not yet gone live, but I really thought that, given the audience that we have, this is a good opportunity for us to talk about the efforts that brands can really do. In closing, I would just like to once again thank everybody for all the great work that has been done. And I would look forward to partnerships, particularly from state governments and the organizations that are part of this day, to really help us drive the cause of menstrual hygiene forward and make sure that we are still able to provide access, we are still able to provide education related to puberty, even during COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chetna. Now I invite Dr. Hema Devakar to speak. Over to you, Hema.
Namaskar. Yeah, Namaskar. On behalf of ARTIST, which expands as Asian Research and Training Institute for Skill Transfer, I must place on record my heartfelt thanks to the men in SHM, with whom always we associate as knowledge partners. Niranjan Hiranandani ji, Ravi Bhatnagar ji, Sandeep ji, Chandar Shekhar ji, all of you have put us together on this platform to speak about menstruation with dignity and celebrating the menstrual hygiene day. And I must say, wow, we reflect on our own practice. 40 years as an OBGYN, we've come a long way indeed from the hush-hush conversation, even within our own consulting rooms, where women coming to us, girls coming to us with menstrual problems, would not directly speak to us about what the problem is and circumvent and try to package it and camouflage it in such a way that as if it is something that should not be loudly uttered. So, Pratibha Singh ji, I must say I have taken your red dot challenge right away, and we will promote this right across the country with both men and women. In the COVID pandemic times, everything with the do's and don'ts of COVID seem to be so well aligned and applicable to the menstrual hygiene. The COVID do's and don'ts say that you must wash hands repeatedly. Well, that is an integral part of the hygiene for menstruation. Also, respiratory etiquette, dispose the tissue and cover the dustbin with the lid. So says COVID. And the same applies to any kind of sanitary pad that the girls and women are using for their disposal. The frequency of change of pads, which is the most frequently asked questions in our school programs, that also is a part and parcel of their education towards hygiene. One thing which we do not agree with COVID and menstruation is distancing. Well, this is not applicable to the women and girls who are menstruating. There is no taboo. It's not a stigma. It is not something dirty that you have to stay away. Don't let this thing come in the way of your thoughts, your actions, your career, your opportunities, all of these. And then I do recall that our school health programs, which is called Health and Hygiene, which many years ago, our parent organization of gynecologists, FOGSI, 4 million girls when we covered, really had to go from door to door seeking permission that we want to speak about this in the schools. Well, now the schools are inviting organizations like ARTIST to do many programs for them. And very recently, we have started including the boys also in the deliberation, because we want to bring to their notice that boys and girls are equal, but they're different. Gender equality issue can be greatly focused when we discuss this on one page. And also, as rightly said by the previous speakers, we have actually said, don't pick that your school has a bathroom or is the door there closing adequately, is the water running, how is the cleanliness of your bathroom, etc. etc. There's so many more things than just having a restroom in the school, which as rightly has been brought to our notice, girls, just imagine them dropping out of their education and the career itself because of the lack of sanitation. Well then, we have come again looking at it positively a long way, because even whoever goes to buy a condom or a sanitary pad, the shop is no longer looked at from top to bottom, and then he removes the pad as if a secret place and covers it up, wraps it, and you have to hold it with a a bag and move ahead. It's no longer the same scenario. In the metros, even men in the house are quite ready to bring the sanitary pad. That much we have equalized. And in the health and hygiene programs, as I said, we involve the whole community, boys, girls, gender, age, no bar. And we used 10,144 pads to create the largest uterus made of sanitary pads. And we are the Guinness Book record holders as of today, ably supported by the Torrent Pharma, which again means that if we involve the other stakeholders, we have to raise our noise levels to make them recognize and realize that these are important issues. May it be education, may it be sanitation, may it be gender equality, may it be human rights, may it be equal opportunity to everybody. Yes, this is some issue which aligns so well with the SDG goals. And we as gynecologists have girls and women of all age coming to us with menstrual problems. Many of you may later in the Q&A session want to ask me about young adolescent girls with menstrual irregularities, the PCOS, the lifestyle changes, the obesity, etc., which is all interlinked with the menstrual problems. As the age advances, and the problems with infertility, menstruation, etc., and then in the menopause too, it haunts her until she attains the menopause with issues such as heavy bleedings and anemia and fibroids and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, I would save Pranita's time by just bringing to everybody's notice there's also the recent past been a sensitization and shift in focus from using nothing to using sanitary pads. That's a part and parcel of hygiene. From sanitary pads to biodegradable sanitary pads. That is, again, they're sensitive to the environment. 7% are shifting on to the menstrual cups as well. We recently published a paper on that. So things are changing. So let us hope that we really synchronize and synergize, put our best foot forward to do better for the whole community of girls, women, and the society. And I must close by saying that when environmental friendly issue is also brought to the focus, a girl is not born a woman. She becomes one when she gets her menstruation. So please celebrate your womanhood, celebrate the World Menstrual Hygiene Day. I leave you with this thought, only be welcoming your questions around these issues, not only today, but for many, many days with the large human resource workforce that we have, ever willing to do our bit as private players in partnership with anyone who chooses to partner with us. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Hema, and really highlighting some of the key points about the change and the need for engaging other stakeholders, and also keeping up to the time. You have finished your talk in 7 minutes sharp. So thank you. Now moving to Ms. Marine Joan, DGM CSR from ESSER Foundation. Ms. Marine, please share your thoughts. Hi, I can't hear. Marine, can you hear? I think there is some technical issue. Marine? So while we get Marine's technical issue addressed, may I invite Praveen, Mr. Praveen?
Bean's audio.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Parveen sir, please put your audio option into computer audio. Hello, Parveen sir.
Yes. Hello.
Marine ma'am.
Yeah. Sorry. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am.
Sorry for the glitch.
Okay, so okay. So
Um,
Marine is back. Okay, so let's start with Marine and then Praveenji, you can come
Sure.
after her.
All right. So am I audible? I'm
Sorry
just
for all
checking.
the confusion.
Yes, sir. You are audible now.
Can hear you well.
All right. All right. All right.
sorry for the technical glitch. My task has been made easier by each of the earlier speakers in terms of the in-depth understanding about menstrual hygiene and the initiatives taken by UNICEF, UN Women, and each of the bodies, each of the organizations across the country. As our foundation has also been actively working on the MH space, menstrual awareness creation in locations as like Dantewad in Chhattisgarh, Sukma and Paradeep in Odisha, and different locations in Gujarat, in Maharashtra, closer to Pune in BMC schools as well. We had even helped out in setting up women's initiative SHG groups in terms of setting up production unit and in rural areas so that the rural women have access to the sanitary pads or an absorbent as an option in Dantewad. I'm just quickly sharing because of the lack of time. I'm quickly sharing some of the initiatives through a short film, which we have done about our initiative. Is it visible?
Visible, ma'am. Please play on full screen mode, ma'am. Marine ma'am, please play. मैम वीडियो मूव नहीं कर रहा मैम, प्लीज रिप्ले करेंगे ऐसे।
what we are sharing is basically the kind of quick initiatives that we have taken up during the times of COVID. We launched our application Sahej, which is the whole idea is like some of the speakers had said, how can we make information available, accessible to every person, every individual that is there, especially young girls and women. And what is more convenient than a digital platform? Something which is there, which can be easily accessed through your mobile in the privacy of your home. And with that thought, we have brought out this SR Sahej app, which is focusing on enabling this young girls, women to exercise their right to access information about menstrual hygiene, to break the taboo, and also in terms of understanding, accessing health, reaching out to experts or doctors to get their queries answered. So we are focusing on building these synergies across multiple partners. We would like to thank UNICEF for sharing their well-researched, well-created contents on menstrual hygiene on the app. So they have supported us with those. UNICEF Maharashtra has shared their contents, which we have now uploaded into our Sahej app. We have WSSCC also contributing their contents for the app. So we would, it's a partnership, and we focus on partnership on it, because as one of the speakers had rightly said, it's about synergies. In terms of we all have to collaborate, break the silos to break the silence. Yeah. Hello. Video name Mildred. Okay.
Miss Marin, could you go without the video if it is not possible?
Hello.
This is Sandeep. Could we go without the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Quickly sharing in terms of, I think there was some glitch in terms of the video was not very clear, visible. What we are looking at in terms of the Sahej app is a kind of, we have created a platform wherein you get information, children can play games like Snake and Ladder and learn behavior change with ease. We have videos from UNICEF, WSC and other doctors videos which we have created in simple 2 minutes videos which can easily give information to the user. It is to engage all people on the platform in terms of understanding and breaking the silence. We are also looking at in terms of a e-commerce space, which is also focusing so that people, not only about the different absorbents that are available, that be pads, tampons, menstrual cups. So it's the right for, it's enabling women to exercise the right to make their own informed choice as to what absorbent or product they want to use and making it easily accessible from there. And in terms of different information, so we are encouraging people, especially women aesthetic groups, going local, that is there in the current times of COVID, accessing these products, as rightly some of the speakers have clearly stated, is very difficult. So through this e-commerce platform, we aim to engage with all the local producers of these sanitary pads to be on part of the e-commerce platform, so that it's available to all the women and girls. It can easily access. There is Ask an Expert feature that is there, so that the beneficiaries from their home, because it's true that people cannot reach out to gynecs or any other doctors, especially in rural India or even third tier and say two-tier cities also. Reaching experts is difficult, so they can connect through the feature in terms of asking their questions and getting help to their concerns from the privacy of their homes. These are some of the features that we have built into the app. And in this, apart from this, we have partnered with UNICEF local in Mumbai, as rightly we have with the government, BMC, we have partnered and distributed pads across Mumbai, different slum locations where it was extremely critical and requests were coming in. We have done in Kashmir during the times of COVID to reach out and provide them with the sanitary pads. Also in Jharkhand, where there was a request, we had supplied with sanitary pads. These are some of the initiatives, and also, of course, joining with the UNICEF again for the Red Dot campaign, which we have been promoting as many people and inviting not only girls but boys, our young interns that are there and across colleges to join in this and break the silence. This is like a quick snapshot of the initiative that we look forward to as part of the response for COVID and in reaching out to girls and young women in menstrual hygiene aspect and the menstrual hygiene management. And we look forward to more partnership synergies, because unless we come together and work together, it's a tall challenge that we have to address to make it safe, or rather ensuring that the right of every girl and woman to have a safe and dignified period. Thank you.
Do we have Pranita ji? Sandeep ji, do we have Pranita? I think she's disconnected.
Thanks, Ms. Marin. I would like to welcome Mr. Praveen Khan. Praveen Khan is a CSR. Hello, Praveen Khan is a CSR head of Minda Group, and he has a very rich experience especially in the field as an implementation. So, please, Praveen, over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Am I audible now?
Yes, please.
All right. So, namaskar, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to my friends who have joined in from different parts of the world. मैंने अभी ऑब्जर्व किया कि अभी तक जितने भी पैनलिस्ट हैं, आई एम द ओनली मेल स्पीकर हियर, और ऐसी ही कुछ स्थिति थी सन 2013 में जब मैंने इस कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत की थी MHM अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में. आई वर्क फॉर एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कॉल्ड स्पार्क मिंडा, and we work on education, skilling, empowering persons with disability, healthcare, community infrastructure, environment and resource protection. So like any other corporate, we've been also doing general medical camps in the areas where we operate. I also had a presentation, by the way, my colleague who takes care of this program, she gave it to me, but I'm not referring that presentation. Why? Because most of the part of the presentation has already been spoken by rest of the speakers. So I have a very good note here. I'm skipping that presentation. I've made a very good note. I have an advantage to get to those notes and a disadvantage that I have very less points to speak. So what I'll do rather, I have one case study which I'll refer very quickly in my time availability. We were doing medical camps, general medical camps in the areas where we operate. But one smart thing that we did was we were collecting the findings. The findings during the medical camps were provided by the doctors to us. We conducted these medical camps in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Haryana. And in these few states, our factories are present. Collecting the facts, we went to the district health department. We also had some of the primary data related to health which were available with us. The problem statement were identified through these camps. Women were anemic, they were prone to vaginal issues, reproductive disorders, issues of menstrual cycle, pregnancy, maternal mortality. So now, since the problem was identified, the solution had to be thought of. We looked at the solution, we conducted a survey work. We made Global Hunt Foundation as our partner who conducted a research with the sample women of these areas, collected the findings. There was a pre-project status. Pranita ji, a full-fledged research with a sample was conducted, and a couple of findings here I would like to present to you. Half the population do not know that how many ovaries women have in Uttarakhand. 79% of the women used to think menstrual blood is dirty and impure. 77% of the women believed that menstruation is a social taboo in Tamil Nadu. Then we got in touch with an organization called Jatan Sansthan from Udaipur, Rajasthan, and we developed a program. We also took guidelines from the government, and Joya ma'am, we were supported well by the district administrations of these states. They handholded us to create the framework that we had to offer to the community to address to the problem statement that we have identified. So in 2 phases, we went this program. In the first phase, body knowledge, hygiene knowledge, cultural and religious practices, they were listed. And in the second phase, managing menstruation and cloth pad stitching, these 2 things were identified to be delivered. Why cloth pad? Because of the affordability of the people. The areas where we were operating, people belonging to the underprivileged sections of the society, and the affordability to sanitary napkins was not very well. We heard a couple of our co-panelists that they are offering these services to the community, and I'm pretty well happy to know about all that, and we would like to collaborate in future to make these accessibilities of sanitary napkin to those women. We did not stop there. In 2014, once we started this program, we also get to know about other issues which were related to family planning. The problem of advanced family planning was there. The accessibility to family planning techniques was not well known. The awareness was one of the problems, and the accessibility as well, although the government was working. So what we did, we got in touch with the Anganwadi and the Asha workers through the help of the civil surgeons, and also with the help of the CMOs of that area, PHCs and CHCs of that area. Panchayat was also supportive, and Pathfinder International, another organization, they were brought in to collaborate because they were the experts for this. We were not. We are not the experts for this. We learned all this subject with our own experiences. We got registered to ourselves with a program called Every Woman, Every Child. अभिलाषा जी, UN Women का ये जो प्रोग्राम है, इसमें हम लोगों ने कमिटमेंट किया कि हम 3000 औरतों तक इन महिलाओं, इन स्टेट्स की महिलाओं को लेकर जाएंगे और इस कार्यक्रम की, मेंस्ट्रुअल हाइजीन की, फैमिली प्लानिंग की, रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ की जानकारी देंगे, उन्हें अवेयर करेंगे ताकि बदलाव आ सके. We were expecting to have some of the outcomes out of it. We understood, we believe that pregnancy should be by choice, and it should not happen by chance. Sorry, I'm deviating a little bit from the major issue, which is menstrual hygiene, but these all are connected issues, and that is why I'm taking my time to talk about it. So 2000 15, 16, 17, 18 तक हमने इस पूरे कार्यक्रम को किया। हर साल लगभग 900 से लेकर के 1000 महिलाओं तक हम पहुंचे। 3000 महिलाओं तक हम 2019 तक पहुंच चुके थे। We also conducted another survey. 83% that was post-training outcome. 83% of the women, they started knowing their body. 90% women knew that's a biological process. 80% of them started hygienic practices, and 56% started using contraceptive. Menstrual hygiene, family planning, reproductive health. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के WHO के स्टैटिस्टिक्स को यदि आप देखें तो कुछ अलार्मिंग स्टैटिस्टिक्स दिखता है। 30% of the women are in the menstrual age in India. 43% do not have access to menstrual products. 67% of them access it from their friends, colleagues and all. 62% use cloth. ये 2017 का डेटा है। 45% इसको टैबू मानती हैं। 23 मिलियन बच्चियां स्कूल से ड्रॉप आउट होती हैं हर वर्ष इस मुद्दे की वजह से। तो ये सारे जो स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं ये बहुत अलार्मिंग स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं। और हमारा ये जो प्रोग्राम है मैंने एक केस स्टडी के माध्यम से आपको प्रेजेंट किया है दैट हाउ डिड वी स्टार्ट विद मेंस्ट्रुअल हाइजीन, फैमिली प्लानिंग टू रिप्रोडक्टिव हेल्थ, एंड नाउ व्हाट इज द वे फॉरवर्ड। वी आर लुकिंग फॉर the French commitment to be reconstituted with United Nations, Abhilasha ji, and we would look for another 5 years that how do we go about it, to fulfill another commitment. We did look at some of the specialized groups. We went to the prisons of India and we are installing the sanitary napkin vending machine in the prisons of India where women inmates are there. इसके अलावा जब मैं कोविड के बारे में सोचता हूं तो मुझे लगता है कि पीडीएस के तहत खाना तो मिल जाता है मगर एक एसेंशियल कमोडिटी सैनिटरी नैपकिन भी है जो मिलनी चाहिए, विच इज नॉट देयर। सो डॉक्टर जोया मैम, ये एक रिक्वेस्ट है हमारे तरफ से। माइग्रेंट लेबर्स के बारे में सोचता हूँ, विमेन विथ डिसेबिलिटी इनके बारे में मैं सोचता हूँ, सेक्स वर्कर्स, ट्राइबल्स के बारे में सोचता हूँ, स्लम एरियाज, चाइल्ड होम्स, इन सारी जगहों के बारे में मेरे दिमाग में जब ख्याल आता है तो लगता है कि एक एसेंशियल कमोडिटी होना चाहिए और जिस तरीके से खाने की सप्लाई हो रही है उसी तरीके से इसकी भी सप्लाई होनी चाहिए, which is mandatory. I don't have much time. I think I'm on the 8th minute itself. I'll stop here with one statement that the public-private partnership, the private-private partnership, these all are important. This cannot be done in isolation. SDG 17, partnership for goal, is important here. We all have to do it. I found myself as the only male co-panelist here. This issue would exist in the society till the time this remains the issue of Bahan, Ma and Beti. This becomes a solution once this becomes a mudda for Saas, Beta, Sasur, Panchayat, community and the country. All from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen. I'm sorry I had a lot of network problem. Now towards the end, I invite Dr. Zoya Ali Rizvi, Deputy Commissioner, Adolescent and Child Health, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, to give her keynote address. Dr. Zoya, over to you.
Okay, can I just clarify if all of you can hear me?
Ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, great. Okay, let me begin first by thanking SHM for organizing this very important webinar in these times of COVID and inviting so many stakeholders who are working in the area of menstrual hygiene management. And my first statement I would like to say is that there is no lockdown in periods. Periods will continue irrespective whether you're going to have a pandemic, epidemic, anything. So it's important for us to keep menstrual hygiene management as a very critical part of our programs and to make it safe and hygienic for our girls and women. So effectively, I think I will not talk too much because there's about 6 minutes I get. So what this actually means is that the girl needs to know before her periods, what are periods, and the girl should be told before what the periods are about, and then so that she's comfortable talking about menstruation. She knows how to manage menstruation. She knows how to change a pad, dispose of the used pad, and she knows when to seek help when she's having any problem. She needs to visit a medical doctor. That she has to know. And then there should be access to uninterrupted sanitary napkins or other safe menstrual hygiene material for her all through her life. And then Also, which I think which was discussed a bit in this webinar, is that as a lot of girls have very heavy periods, the issue of having good diet at home also has to be stressed. The girls who have periods may end up becoming anemic. So hence, if you look at that, we need to involve, as I think Mr. Praveen also just mentioned, we have to involve the men. We need to inform the fathers, the brothers who are actually involved in a lot of decision making in the house, that it is very important for the girl to have as good and nutritious a food as the men and boys in the house. That is first. And then men and boys, since they are the one who in many families are the decision makers, they need to know and understand that the girl and the woman in the house needs to have uninterrupted supply of sanitary napkin material or cloth or any other safe material for her all through her life. It is not a big favor which they will do, these women. It is the least they can do for the women in the house who are supporting running the house and making the house a good place to live in. Thirdly, I would like to say is that we need to demystify, which I think a lot of our partners, I was just listening to them, whether it is UNICEF, whether it is UN Women, whether it is SR Foundations, or the artist, and of course, Mr. Praveen, he mentioned, is that there's a lot of work which is happening within the community to demystify periods, which is really very critical, because it is a natural process for any woman to have periods every month. So, and then once it is understood as a natural method, natural thing which is happening in the woman, there will be no stigma attached to it. There will be no concept of dirty blood or wrong thing or impurity for the woman. So this kind of normalization of periods has to take place. And I think as a government mandate, this is one of the very critical things which we talk to when we go to states, when we interact with our partners, is that first step is to normalize periods. Once periods are considered as a normal part of any woman's growing issues, then automatically the services which are provided for a woman will become a part and parcel of any health program, any intervention, and it will not be again as if it's a big thing which is happening. It's a routine thing which should keep happening as a matter of fact, as a matter of right for every woman in this country. Hence, I think government has to look at some kind of an ongoing intervention which is sustainable, which will tackle both the stigma and, of course, provision of safe menstrual hygiene practices. And as I think Mr. Praveen also mentioned, that we are also promoting these e-commerce platforms. All our procurement, most of our procurement at state level is also taking part through e-commerce platforms, so that more and more smaller enterprises and medium level enterprises are enrolling into that, so that no one or I should not say one or two companies, no couple of companies have the monopoly. I mean, more and more people are investing their time, their money, their training into the menstrual hygiene management. And I think if I take a step back and say is that a lot of ministries as of now are involved. You all are very well aware. However, I would just like to mention is that along with Ministry of Health, we have the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, which created the wonderful guidelines in 2015. Then we have Women and Child Ministry. We have the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Panchayati Raj. So all of these ministries are working in tandem and working in their own fields. Everybody is not looking at only procurement of napkins. Some are talking about availability, increasing the access to the last mile, increasing awareness, increasing training, giving options to the self-help groups, giving options to the other beneficiaries from where to procure. So each of us, we are working in various fields in menstrual hygiene itself, and gradually the budgetary allocation also for procurement, as in Health Ministry, I should say, is the budgetary allocation for procurement of sanitary napkins has grown up gradually. Right now, I think last year we gave about 65 crores. This year we gave more than 64 crores. So states are out there who are procuring in a decentralized fashion sanitary napkins for their own beneficiaries. And as the uptake of napkins distribution through the ASHA mechanism, support by the ANM and the medical officer, this increases, this budgetary allocation, this capacity building will increase gradually. However, since this is a wonderful platform to talk to a lot of our private partners, this huge issue of involving the NGO partners, these civil services or civil society organization, the CSR fund of this private thing is a very important part of menstrual hygiene, because government can only cover so much. We would really require your help. You have to support the government measures to strengthen whatever is being done and supplement. Like it was mentioned that your some agencies are installing vending machine. This is a wonderful thing. However, vending machine is a thing which needs regular replenishment, uptake, management issues. So all that support which our partners can do will really strengthen this program in the field. But I would only one point I would like to say to all our partners is, whenever you're working in any state, any government agency, please keep the government in the loop. you must involve the district administration, the state administration. So it is always good to have the government on your side so that they further, support you when you are going out in the field. You have increased access to the health facilities, increased access to the education institutions, to the Anganwadis, to the Panchayati houses. So whenever you are supporting government and government is on your side, it really helps. I think, and I would just wrap up by saying that with this COVID pandemic, which is happening now, it has become very important for the ministry. We have issued guidelines to all the states that sanitary napkin provision is one of the essential services. This has to be covered by the ASHA and ANM during the outreach services. And in fact, we have gone a step further. And we have said that whenever the ASHA and ANM are going for the outreach activities within the communities, the villages and all, they can actually distribute napkins not for 1 month. We are trying to support the states in giving at least at one time for 3 months, at least 2 months, so that the girl, by the time she finishes this month's period, she's not worried about the next month. So this kind of dialogue is continuously happening with the states, in which we are supporting them, giving them suggestions. But I think interventions as of now are limited to the outer buffer, to the zone which is outside the buffer zone. Because inside the containment and buffer zone, the activities are a bit restricted because of the risk to the health of the healthcare personnel. However, what we are saying is that any woman who comes to the health institution should not be refused for any services, whether it is for, say, sanitary napkin, whether it is for IFA, whether it is for vaccination, whether it is for antenatal care, for any kind of testing also. So that mandate has been shared with the states and they are fully online. However, I think as with the support of all the private partners who are out here, I would like to just request you all ki now is the time to work, I think, more closely with the government and to strengthen whatever the government is doing and maybe take 2 steps towards us. Maybe so many times, I think in the government, we have our hands tied due to a lot of policies, due to interventions, which maybe we are not funding directly or indirectly, or there's a different ministry which is funding. So as a private player in any state, you can work with more than one partners. It will be somewhat, I think, implementation at the district and state level is somewhat easier because you are interacting with the heads of the administrative of both, say, health, say, WCD, say, education. They're all in one state and you can meet them together. And since your intervention will help their beneficiaries at one go, whether it is school children or girls out of school or women who are at home or tribal women. So for I think private partners and the NGOs in states, it is somewhat easier to interact with multiple departments so that your intervention actually has a good chance of succeeding. But always involve the government. And I think I look forward to seeing a lot of stories which are said that you're going to document stories and intervention and even the learning experiences from this. This will be a learning experience for all of us in the ministry as well. And as we learn more, we will always try and change the programs, to tweak the programs so that we support all the people who are working in the field need support, and we are here in the ministry to support all of you. And I think I would like to say best of luck to all of you who are working in the field in this difficult times and supporting our girls and women in this critical thing of menstrual hygiene. And best of luck and thank you so much.
For making some very powerful comments and including the need for normalization of period and budgetary increase and the need for everybody coming together and working together. I'll just take few minutes to the points that you all have raised and adding few more points from my side. No, I see MHM, as someone has said, as a rights issue of gender equality. And for me, without gender lens, our efforts on products, services, and programming will be half-hearted with very little transformative value. Some of us talked about gender norms and how menstruation is used to control mobility and sexuality of girls, which is very crucial. The need for the way we have created a culture of silence and shame around girls, and there's a need to break those and the efforts that are going on. For many girls, even with all the changes that we have talked about, for many girls, first period still brings confusion, anxiety, and fear with long-term implication. And if we think about who are the key stakeholders in the girl's life, definitely parents and teachers are the two critical duty bearers. And our field experience suggests that how many parents and teachers are so uncomfortable talking about menstruation, even now. They themselves lack correct and comprehensive knowledge. They are trapped in web of myths and misconceptions. They also need skills and conviction along with knowledge to enable girls manage their period with dignity and safety. Uh, we talked about how the need for normalizing period, that we cannot continue. I know this need to break this whole notion about don't let anyone know or it's dirty, and that it's a very normal process and everyone need to be part of that engagement. Another in the line of that same story is the stain is such a huge fear for girls. It affects their schooling, their participation in sports, mobility, and many more activities that otherwise they would have liked to participate and work. So that's another thing that we have to really think around that. And I strongly feel that with more and more girls and boys going to school, school is a crucial site for providing correct and comprehensive information. And it's also a site for engaging not only girls, but also boys. We need to have all the stakeholders be part of the process. This cannot be, and many of you said, can be only girls issue. It has to go beyond that. The another point which is very linked to this, but I want to talk about how central are girls in designing products, services, and programs. Do we really value their voices and experience? Do we include those in developing and designing programs? You know, in one of our studies, girls shared their experience on access, use, and disposal of menstrual products, the challenges and concerns they had, and they wanted to share these with relevant authorities on a real-time basis, but they didn't have any means to do that. Now, how can a solution or the effort be responsive if it doesn't incorporate voices and experience of primary stakeholder, which is women and girls? So we really need to think about that. uh, the when we talk about options, and someone had rightly pointed out that there need to be informed choice for girls and women to decide what is best for them. But then when we also start talking about eco-friendly options, it seems that eco-friendly options just conflict with the options or the choices that the girls should have. And I feel that whenever we that one is that it's important to think about eco-friendly solution, but there it should be the quality and choices should be integral part of designing such programs. And without that, it's just difficult to make any program responsive to girls' need. In that whole conversation, I felt that one thing which came bits and pieces is about research and evidence building. I mean, we all commonly say what gets measured gets valued. Uh, when I was going through that green paper on monitoring and measuring menstruation, it really highlighted that how little investments has been made so far on research and measurement around menstruation. I mean, even if you look at like our largest health and demographic survey, it has very like altogether 6 questions. And a question on a type of material used during menstruation doesn't even indicate hygienic practice or its consequence on health or well-being. I mean, we really need to rethink and revisit that. And we really need to invest in research, measurement, learning, and evaluation to inform and attract bigger investment, larger investment on menstruation. And towards the end, I want to say, which many of you have already said, that menstruation is multi-sectoral issue, needs multi-sectoral collaboration with gender lens for comprehensive gender responsive action. And I feel that's the way forward. So thank you everyone. Uh, Going to the question, there are not many questions that people have put in, but there are certain reflection. But there is one question, which is why and what cultural barriers are getting intensified related to menstruation. Anyone would like to take this up? I know this time is very short, but do anyone wants to take this up, this question?
Can you repeat the question, Parita? Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So it says that why and what cultural barriers are getting intensified. And I suppose this is in the context of COVID-19.
I think I can speak a bit on this if it is all right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure,
See,
Dr.
COVID pandemic times are difficult times for everybody. And the girl who is at home and who is not allowed to go to college, not allowed to meet her friends, not allowed to go out and just have a walk on site. So anyway, there is restriction to her movement. And with menstrual hygiene already a so-called taboo topic, and you can't talk about it, you can't go out to buy napkins. So this restriction has further increased, as it was discussed initially also, that there were already barriers to access to menstrual hygiene products, and now with this barrier of COVID, lack of access, lack of exit from house, lack of meeting up, catching up with friends, all that is not there. So this girl is not able to go out to actually buy napkins. And only way where she is actually getting napkins is through distribution, whether it is to the government paraphernalia or through private NGOs or through home visits by anybody. So that is the barriers which were already in place have further strengthened and made it worse for the girl to access any of the safe menstrual hygiene practices nowadays. I think that is how I would like to say. Okay, I think that's fine. Regarding menstrual hygiene, I will not go into various other factors which have become worse for women.
Yeah, can I
Yes,
add one
Geeta,
thing?
I
Yeah,
just
Dr.
think,
Hema.
Yeah, I
yeah.
fully agree
So
with the points
I think,
mentioned by Dr. Zoya.
can I
Just want to
speak?
add that during the lockdown period, yeah. Hello?
That let first Dr. Hema and then Dr. Pratibha.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that though the generations are changing, still the mindset and the barriers to go to a shop and only ask for a sanitary pad and buy it, still some barrier there. What has changed is the methodology by which they get the pads into their home, like by online shopping, there's that, in a very anonymous, discreet manner, and similarly with the vending machines, etc. So that is what is enhanced, which is in the urban scenario, at least it is keeping them comfortable, and that was what was missing in the COVID times without any supplies to their doorstep. So that's one thing. And another point that Zoya ji mentioned about giving the sanitary pads for the girls for 3 months. We completely agree on that, because in the schools where we are providing the sanitary pad, we are doing it for 1 whole year, because then that becomes her behavior change. She is, compelled not to change her behavior, because she gets so addicted and used to it. She will not agree to use anything else. So then she demands that I need this, for the. So that is the kind of change that we are bringing about. As we speak today, the afternoon, I'm involved in distributing 50,000 pads to the migrant workers, because again, the schools being closed and these migrant workers, more than the ration and whatever else everybody is happy to give them, this is one of the essentials which has been missing link, and so we are stepping in for that in Bangalore. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Pratibha?
Yeah. Just want to add to what Dr. Zoya and Dr. Hema have just said. During the COVID pandemic linked lockdown, what has also been coming to light in some surveys which were done was that when families are like together during the lockdown period, and there are issues related to privacy of girls, and they are getting access to a private space to change the menstrual cloth, that is also, or a menstrual pad, that is also some problem which has got intensified during the lockdown period. And also because families are together, a lot of family members who were generally out for work are at home together, so that is also leading to certain complications. So addressing the problem of involving men in menstruation, considering the fact that realization of it shouldn't be just a women's issue, and also there's a ironical fact that in the word menstruation there is men over there. So it is very important, and the sensitization has to happen at all levels, in offices, homes, families, everywhere. Over from my side.
Pranita, 5 seconds I need.
Yeah,
5
sure.
seconds.
Please
The
go ahead.
panchayat, Yeah, the panchayat, the PDS system, the ASHA workers, and the combination of all that to ensure supply of sanitary napkin. Joya ma'am, just a thought that came to my mind. Thank you so much.
Dr. Zoya, you want to say something?
I don't know. We are actually anyway working in coordination, and a lot of places, especially in the rural areas, the panchayat, the PRIs are already on board with the sharing information within their own circles. But yes, that may be a very weak link which we are facing as of now.
Pranita, I wanted to place one more thought on records here, that when we say so much about advocacy with the parents and the teachers, and they also know very little, and there are barriers in them comfortably speaking to the younger girls in preparedness for the menstruation onset, we have now discovered with our recent research, many of these youth don't even want to seek any advice from the teachers and the the parents, because the embarrassment continues, and they now again go to the digital media. Some of the apps that were mentioned in this very program itself, I think when they are launched, 80% of the girls and boys are seeking all information related to menstruation, sexuality, and related things to the internet. That is like very, very strikingly, the numbers are great in the recent paper that we have published. So, and also about menstrual cups, the group, that is, as in doctors have a mindset of not bothering about the environment or change or anything, but the girls themselves out there have figured out on their own about what it is, how they use them, etc., etc. So it's a sea change. If we go to them, they are seeking alternative methods. So authentic information, correct information, and dispelling the myths and misconception on any platform whatsoever where they can reach. That should be the goal.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Hema. And I suppose girls are also not a homogeneous group. There is huge difference in terms of what they can access. And even with internet and improved accessibility, digital accessibility, which is again not true for all girls, I think the importance of the duty wearers will not go away. And the opportunity to discuss and interact with the parents and their teachers on these issues are also equally important, and we should create, because now right now when teachers and parents are not comfortable, children are also not comfortable talking to them. So we have to create the cycle and then the interaction that both sides are comfortable, even when there is a third medium which is enabling them to converse and talk. But that interpersonal communication between parents and children, parents and teacher and children, I don't think that really needs to get away even with the presence of digital media. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And on the cultural, I agree with the points that you all had mentioned, that with the supply getting disrupted, but I think the bigger issue is still the space and opportunity that girls get within the household, with more and more male members being present, that their space of privacy to change and clean themselves and dispose the clothes becomes even more difficult. So I think that's definitely something which is this COVID has created, and it has, and again it will have a long-term implication. And unless we really think about involving all the stakeholders, every member in the family and then the community, we will not be able to address this issue. So with that, I thank all of you. Thank you, and thank you all our viewers who were there very patiently listening and reflecting some of their thoughts. And they have also requested for the presentations, if that can be shared, and also if they can get access to the recording. So these are the two requests that people have shared. And very interestingly, someone also sent that maybe Whisper PNG can think about changing the name from Whisper to Talk. So this whole notion about what to be whispered and what to be talked, I think that was very interesting reflection from someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everyone.
Thank you so
Sandeep ji,
much.
if you have any last minute thought, thank you.
On behalf of SHM, we are very thankful to all our partners and very specially thanks for Ministry of Health, UNICEF, ICRW, UN Women, and also specially thanks to the continued support the PNG, and so Dettol Vinegar Swasth India, and also Artist, and especially thanks to my friend Mr. Praveen Khan from Spark Media Foundation. To I think the one only the one man person is here in the panelist. So always, so time is very short as we have another program. So again, on behalf of all partners, we are thankful to all participants, those who are listening. So since last 1.5 hours, it's a very tough time to just like, and we are, this is a good time to just friendly with the technology to just like just seminar to webinar. Okay, again, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay.